The millionaire made his assistant pretend as his fiancée, but when she left, he couldn't let go. In today's video, we dive into a story that begins with a simple yet life-changing request. A millionaire CEO, busy with his high-profile career, makes a strange proposition to his loyal assistant. He asks her to pretend to be his fiancée for a major business deal and arrangement that's strictly professional. But as their charade progresses, something unexpected happens. Real emotions start to bloom, and when she decides to leave, he finds himself unable to let go. It all starts with an ordinary workday, or so it seems. Julia Matthews, a diligent assistant at one of the most powerful tech firms in the city, had always kept her personal life separate from work. But when her boss, Lucas Grant, a notoriously reserved and wealthy CEO, asks her to step in for an important role at a business gala, she is hesitant. "Pretend to be my fiancé for the evening," he had said, his tone more demanding than pleading. "It'll be just for show, nothing personal." But Julia, always the professional, agrees. She knows how important this event is for Lucas and his company. It's a high-stakes evening, one where everything from investor trust to company mergers will be discussed. She's the perfect assistant, detail-oriented and reliable, but never did she imagine that one decision would change everything. At first, everything goes according to plan. Julia steps into her role, flawlessly posing as Lucas's fiancée, keeping up appearances, charming the guests, and playing her part in a way only she could. But as the night goes on, something shifts. Lucas, the cold, calculated businessman, begins to open up. She sees glimpses of vulnerability in his eyes, moments of kindness where there were once only business transactions. Their eyes meet across the crowded ballroom, and for a moment, the pretense feels real. She wonders if maybe this was more than just a job. But as the night comes to a close, she reminds herself it's all an act. No feelings, no complications, just business. The next day, everything changes. Julia has returned to her usual routine, but Lucas isn't the same. He's distant, more aloof than usual, and she notices something has shifted in their dynamic. She brushes it off after all. It's not like anything real happened between them. But when Lucas asks her to stay on as his fiancée for another series of high-profile events, things get complicated. What was once a simple request has now turned into a tug-of-war between professionalism and something deeper. Julia feels herself falling into a pattern she hadn't expected. She's doing everything she can to keep the boundaries intact, but the lines are starting to blur. And then, the moment comes that changes everything. Julia decides to leave. It's just too much, too complicated. She's not in love with Lucas. She tells herself it was just a job, nothing more. But when she walks away, Lucas's world shifts. He realizes he can't let her go, not because she's the perfect fiancée on paper, but because she's the one person who truly understood him, the one person who didn't fall for his wealth, his power, or his title. She fell for the man behind it all. And now, he's faced with the most difficult decision of his life. Do he let her walk away for good or risk everything to win her heart? The next few days felt like a blur for Julia. The gala had come and gone, but its aftermath lingered. She had barely slept, barely eaten, and all she could think about was Lucas, his coldness, his distance, his inability to let go of the charade they had created. And yet, there was something about the way he looked at her. It was subtle but undeniable. There were moments when she caught him watching her, his eyes softer than she had ever seen them before. She tried to push those thoughts aside. This was just a job, she reminded herself, just a temporary role she had agreed to play. But the more she told herself that, the more complicated things became. As the days passed, Lucas seemed to be everywhere. His emails came more personal, and his calls, well, they started to feel less like business and more like, well, something else. Julia was not sure what to make of it. He had always been so professional, so guarded. She had never imagined that someone like him, a man used to power, wealth, and control, could ever let his guard down like this. She had seen him in countless meetings, orchestrating deals, making decisions with the kind of confidence that only someone like him could possess. But now, there was a different side to him, one that caught her off guard every time they crossed paths. He no longer wore his usual facade of indifference. There was something more vulnerable, more human in his demeanor, and it made Julia's heart skip a beat every time they spoke. One morning, she walked into the office to find Lucas standing by her desk. His usual sharp suit was gone, replaced by a casual button-up shirt and slacks. He was holding a coffee cup in one hand, looking at her with an expression that was hard to read. "I was hoping we could talk," he said softly. Julia hesitated. What could they possibly talk about? They had already gone over everything 100 times. The business, the upcoming projects, the events. But this felt different. She nodded slowly. "Sure, what's on your mind?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Lucas set the coffee cup down on her desk and took a deep breath. I know this might sound strange, but I've been thinking about what happened at the gala," he began. Julia's heart raced. She had been waiting for this moment, the moment when he would address what had happened between them. She had expected him to dismiss it, to pretend like it was nothing. But instead, he was opening up, vulnerable in a way she had never seen him before. "I know it was just supposed to be a job," he continued, his voice quiet. "But it felt real, the way we were together. I can't explain it, but I can't stop thinking about it. I don't want you to think I'm trying to make things awkward, but I need to say this." Julia swallowed hard. She had prepared herself for this moment, but now that it was happening, she wasn't sure what to say. Was he really saying what she thought he was saying? Was he admitting that there was something more to their pretend engagement than just business? "Lucas, she began, but the words caught in her throat. "I don't know what to say. This wasn't supposed to happen. We agreed it was just for the deal, just for the company." Lucas looked down at his hands, his expression conflicted. "I know," he replied quietly, "but sometimes things don't go the way we expect them to. And I can't ignore how I feel about you. I can't ignore the fact that I'm not the same person I was before this all started. I've changed." Julia felt her heart skip a beat. Could it be? Could Lucas Grant, the stoic billionaire CEO, really be falling for her? She had never imagined such a thing. And yet, the way he was looking at her now, so open, so vulnerable, it was hard to deny. "Lucas, this is complicated," she said, her voice shaky. "I can't just pretend it's not happening. But I don't know if I'm ready to handle this. I've spent my whole life keeping things professional, keeping my emotions in check. I don't know how to deal with this." Lucas nodded, understanding. "I get it," he said. "I just wanted you to know how I feel. I don't expect anything from you, but I can't keep pretending like this is just a business arrangement. I care about you, Julia." The words hung in the air between them, charged with emotion, with the weight of something more than just a business deal. Julia didn't know what to say, didn't know how to respond. She had always been the one to keep things in order, to keep everything together. But now, standing here in front of Lucas, she wasn't so sure. The lines between business and personal had already blurred, and she didn't know if she could walk away from this. Not anymore. Julia stood there, her heart racing as the words hung between them, the weight of Lucas's confession sinking in. She had always been so careful, so controlled, but now everything felt out of balance. The lines between work and personal life had blurred so completely that she wasn't sure which way was up anymore. She had spent years keeping her emotions in check, avoiding any situation that might make her vulnerable. But now, standing in front of the man who had once seemed so distant, so unapproachable, she could feel everything shifting. Lucas Grant, the billionaire CEO, was looking at her in a way she had never seen before, open, raw, and vulnerable. It was almost too much for her to process. "I don't know how to handle this," Julia finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've never been in a situation like this before. I don't know what to do with these feelings." Lucas took a step closer, his gaze never leaving hers. "Neither do I," he admitted softly. "But I can't pretend like this doesn't matter. What happened between us, it's real, and I don't want to lose it." Julia felt a wave of uncertainty wash over her. She had spent so long focusing on her career, on keeping things professional, and now it felt like everything was unraveling. The idea of mixing business and emotions had always seemed dangerous to her, and yet, Here she was, standing on the precipice of something she couldn't control. "Lucas, I never expected any of this," she said, shaking her head. "I agreed to pretend to be your fiancé because it was just a job, just something for the company. I never thought it would turn into something real." Lucas reached out, gently taking her hand in his. "I didn't expect it either," he said, his voice low. "But sometimes things happen that you can't predict, and now I can't imagine my life without you in it. I'm not asking you to make any decisions right now. I just need you to know how I feel." Julia looked down at their joined hands, feeling a mix of emotions swirling inside her. Part of her wanted to pull away, to keep things professional as they had always been. But another part of her, the part that had been slowly falling for him since the moment they first met, didn't want to let go. She had been trying so hard to keep her guard up, to maintain her distance. But now, in this moment, she felt the walls she had built around her begin to crumble. "I don't know if I'm ready for this," she said quietly. "I've spent so much of my life trying to keep everything together, trying to make sure I never let anyone in. But with you, Lucas, it's different. I can't explain it, but it's like everything I've ever known is suddenly being turned upside down." Lucas squeezed her hand, his thumb brushing over her knuckles in a way that sent a shiver down her spine. "I know it's complicated," he said. "I know it's not easy, but I also know that I can't keep pretending that I don't care about you, and I don't want to lose you." Julia's breath caught in her throat. She hadn't realized how much she had been holding back, how much she had been trying to protect herself from getting hurt. But now, with Lucas standing in front of her, so open and vulnerable, she couldn't deny the truth anymore. She had feelings for him, real feelings. She had tried to push them aside, to tell herself that this was just a job, just a temporary arrangement. But now she knew she couldn't ignore it any longer. The question was, what did that mean for her? What did that mean for them? "I don't want to lose you either," Julia finally whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "But I'm scared, Lucas. I'm scared of what this means, of how much is at stake." Lucas nodded, his expression softening. "I understand, and I don't want to rush you. I just wanted to be honest with you, to let you know where I stand. But no matter what happens, I'll be here, and I'll support you. We'll figure this out together." Julia took a deep breath, her mind racing. She didn't have all the answers. She didn't know where this would go, or what would happen next. But one thing was clear. Lucas wasn't just her boss anymore. He was someone who cared about her. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough to take the next step. She looked up at him, her eyes meeting his with a mixture of uncertainty and hope. "Okay," she said softly, "let's figure it out together." Quote, "The days that followed were filled with a sense of uncertainty and excitement. Julia and Lucas had agreed to take things slowly, to figure it out together. Yet, every day felt like a new chapter in an unfolding story neither of them had planned for. They spent more time together attending meetings, working late, and occasionally sharing a meal. What started as a professional connection began to evolve into something more personal. The boundaries between work and personal life became increasingly blurred, and neither of them could ignore the feelings that had developed. One evening, after a long day of back-to-back meetings, Julia found herself walking out of the office with Lucas. The moon hung low in the sky, casting a soft glow over the city as they made their way to the parking lot. Julia had hoped for a quiet evening alone, but the moment she stepped outside, Lucas stopped her. "Would you like to grab dinner?" he asked, his voice casual, but there was an unmistakable sincerity in his eyes. Julia hesitated for a moment, her heart pounding. She had been trying to maintain her composure, trying to remind herself that this was just temporary, that things would go back to normal once their work was done. But the truth was, she didn't want things to go back to normal. She didn't want to push Lucas away, not when he had become such an important part of her life. "Sure," she said finally, offering a small smile. "I'd like that." They went to a cozy little restaurant, a quiet spot where they could talk without interruptions. Over dinner, they shared stories about their childhoods, their dreams, and their fears. Julia found herself opening up in a way she hadn't with anyone in years. It was as though the walls she had built around herself were slowly crumbling, piece by piece. Lucas listened intently, his gaze fixed on her as she spoke, and for the first time, Julia saw him as more than just her boss. She saw him as a man with his own vulnerabilities, his own hopes, and his own uncertainties. By the time they finished their meal, the atmosphere between them had shifted. What had started as a simple dinner had turned into something much deeper. There was a connection between them, something that neither of them could ignore any longer. As they walked back to their cars, Lucas turned to her, his expression serious. "Julia, I know we've agreed to take things slow, but I can't keep pretending that this is just business," he said. "I care about you more than I ever expected, and I need you to know that." Julia's heart skipped a beat. She had felt it too, but hearing him say it out loud made it all the more real. She looked up at him, her voice barely a whisper. "I care about you too, Lucas. But I'm still scared. I don't want to ruin everything we've worked for." Lucas took a step closer, his eyes softening. "I understand your fear, Julia, but I also know that I don't want to live without you in my life. You've changed everything for me, and I'm willing to take that risk. I just need you to trust me." Julia stood there, her mind racing. She had spent so long protecting herself, keeping her emotions locked away, but now, with Lucas standing in front of her, she wasn't so sure anymore. Could she take the leap? Could she trust him, trust them, and let go of the fear that had held her back for so long? "I'm scared, Lucas," she said, her voice trembling. "I'm scared of what might happen, scared of where this could go. But at the same time, I don't want to lose you." Lucas smiled softly, his hand reaching out to gently touch hers. "You don't have to lose me, Julia," he said. "We're in this together, and we'll figure it out, one step at a time." Julia nodded, feeling a sense of relief wash over her. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she wasn't alone. She wasn't sure where this journey would take them, but one thing was clear. She was willing to take the risk, to let go of the fear, and see where their connection could lead. As they stood there, hand in hand, the world around them seemed to fade away. It was just the two of them, ready to face whatever came next, together. The following days felt like a whirlwind for Julia and Lucas. The connection between them was undeniable, and yet both of them were still navigating the unfamiliar territory of their evolving relationship. Julia had always been careful, keeping her emotions tightly under control, but now it seemed impossible to avoid the truth of what was happening between them. She had spent years building a wall around herself, determined not to get hurt, but with every passing day that wall grew weaker. Lucas had become more than just her boss. He had become someone she looked forward to seeing, someone she trusted, someone who made her feel things she had never expected. They continued to spend time together, both professionally and personally, but there were moments, like the one they shared during that quiet dinner, when everything felt different, everything felt real. One Friday afternoon, after a particularly long week, Lucas suggested they take a break from work and get away for a weekend retreat in the countryside. It was just the two of them. No business meetings, no events, just a chance to breathe, to reset, and to focus on each other. Julia hesitated for a moment. It felt like a big step, but at the same time, it was exactly what they needed. She had grown so accustomed to seeing Lucas in the office, in the midst of deadlines and conference calls, that she wasn't sure what it would be like to spend time with him outside of that environment. But deep down, she knew it was time. She was ready. They arrived at a charming little cabin nestled in the hills, far away from the chaos of the city. The air was fresh, crisp, and the quiet was almost overwhelming after the constant noise of the office. Lucas seemed more relaxed than Julia had ever seen him, his usual sharp edges softened by the tranquility of their surroundings. They spent their days hiking through the woods, enjoying the beauty of nature, and in the evenings, they would sit by the fireplace, talking about everything and nothing. Julia found herself opening up in ways she hadn't before. She talked about her past, her family, her hopes for the future, things she had never shared with anyone outside of her closest friends. Lucas, in turn, revealed more about his own life, his upbringing, the pressures he faced as a CEO, and the loneliness that often accompanied his success. It was in those quiet moments, when they were far removed from their usual world, that they both realized just how much they had come to care for each other. It was no longer just about the role they had played in each other's lives. It was about something deeper, something more meaningful. As the weekend came to a close, and they packed up to head back to the city, Julia felt a sense of peace that had eluded her for so long. She wasn't sure what the future held for them, but she was no longer afraid of what might happen. For the first time, she felt like she could let go of the control she had fought so hard to maintain. As they drove back to the city, Lucas turned to her with a smile. "I'm glad we did this," he said. "It's been exactly what we needed." Julia nodded, her heart full. "Me too," she replied softly. "I think this is the beginning of something real, Lucas. Something that's not just about business or appearances, but about us." Lucas reached over and took her hand in his fingers gently squeezing hers. "I agree," he said quietly. "This is just the start of what I hope will be the best part of our lives." Julia couldn't help but smile. She had never expected to find herself in a situation like this, falling for her boss, taking a leap of faith in a relationship that had started out as a business arrangement. But now, she realized that sometimes the best things in life come when you least expect them. She didn't have all the answers, but she knew one thing for sure. They were in this together, and whatever happened next, they would face it as a team. As the city skyline came into view, Julia felt a sense of hope that she hadn't felt in a long time. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, she was ready to embrace it with open arms, knowing that whatever came their way, she and Lucas would figure it out, together. The weeks following their weekend retreat were filled with a new sense of clarity for Julia and Lucas. The boundaries they had once carefully maintained between work and personal life had all but disappeared. They were no longer just colleagues, no longer just pretending for the sake of appearances. The connection between them had deepened, and both of them knew that they couldn't ignore what they were feeling any longer. But as much as they had grown closer, reality still loomed over them. The world they inhabited was demanding, relentless, and sometimes it felt as though everything could come crashing down at any moment. Lucas continued to pour himself into his work, as always, but there was a noticeable shift. He was more relaxed, more present with Julia, and that made all the difference. Julia, too, had noticed the change. She had always admired Lucas's focus and drive, but now she saw the man behind the CEO, the man who cared, who worried, who laughed. She saw the person who had become so much more than just her boss. And yet the question of what their relationship meant still lingered in the back of her mind. They hadn't put a label on it yet, hadn't fully discussed where it was going. But she knew deep down that this was no longer just about a job or an arrangement. It was about them, about two people who had come together in the most unexpected way. One evening, as they sat together after dinner, Lucas turned to her with a seriousness that took Julia by surprise. "Julia," he began, his voice low, "I know we've been taking things slow, but there's something I need to say." Julia looked at him, her heart racing. She had felt the weight of unspoken words between them, but she hadn't expected him to bring it up so soon. "What is it?" she asked, her voice steady despite the fluttering in her chest. Lucas took a deep breath, his gaze steady on hers. "I know we've talked about taking our time, but the truth is, I don't want to wait anymore. I want us to be more than just this, whatever this is. I want us to be real. I care about you, Julia. I care about you more than I've cared about anyone in a long time." Julia's breath caught in her throat. She had felt it too, the pull between them, the connection that went beyond the office, beyond the pretense of a business arrangement. But hearing him say it out loud, hearing him put it into words, made it feel so much more real. "Lucas," she whispered, "I care about you too. I've never felt this way before, but I'm scared. Scared of what this could mean for us, for our work, for everything." Lucas reached for her hand, his fingers gently wrapping around hers. "I understand your fear, Julia," he said softly. "But I also know that I don't want to live my life wondering what if. I want to take the chance with you. I want us to be together, outside of work, outside of everything else. I'm ready for that if you are." Julia looked down at their hands, the warmth of his touch grounding her. She had spent so long building walls around herself, afraid to let anyone in, afraid of getting hurt. But now, with Lucas, everything felt different. She could feel the sincerity in his words, the depth of his feelings. And for the first time in a long time, she realized that maybe, just maybe, it was worth taking that leap. "I'm ready," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know where this will go, but I'm ready to take the chance with you." Lucas's face lit up with a smile that made Julia's heart swell. He leaned in, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead, and for a moment, the world seemed to fade away. All that mattered was the two of them, standing together, ready to face whatever came next. The next day, as they returned to the office, everything felt different. The weight of their unspoken feelings had been lifted, replaced by a new sense of purpose and clarity. They were no longer just colleagues, no longer just two people pretending to be something they weren't. They were something real, something that had the potential to grow into something even more. They still had challenges to face, still had to navigate the complexities of their professional lives, but for the first time, Julia felt like she wasn't alone in it. She had Lucas by her side, and together they could handle whatever came their way. As the days turned into weeks, their connection only grew stronger. They shared quiet moments at home, laughing together, supporting each other through the ups and downs of their busy lives. The fear that had once held Julia back was slowly fading, replaced by a deep sense of trust and commitment. And though they didn't know exactly where their journey would lead, one thing was certain. They were in this together, and that was all that mattered. The weeks passed in a blur of late nights and early mornings. Julia and Lucas had settled into a routine, one that balanced their growing personal connection with the demands of their high-profile careers. Things seemed to be moving forward smoothly, but deep down, Julia couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to change. She had become more comfortable with the idea of her and Lucas, as a couple, but the lingering doubt in her mind was always there. They had both been so careful, so cautious in their approach to each other. The question remained, could this truly work in the long term? Could their relationship survive in the midst of their demanding lives, surrounded by the pressures of their work? Lucas, ever the visionary CEO, remained confident. He believed in them. He believed in what they had. But Julia couldn't shake her fear of losing herself in this. She had spent so much time keeping things professional, keeping her emotions at bay. Now, as the months went on, she wondered if it was too late to go back. One afternoon, as they sat together in his office, the weight of unspoken words hung between them. They had been working on a major project for weeks, and the stress had been mounting. As Julia looked across the desk at Lucas, she noticed the lines of tension on his face that hadn't been there before. He had always been a man who could handle pressure, but now, even he seemed to be feeling the strain. The company was expanding rapidly, and with it, the responsibilities. Julia could see the toll it was taking on him, and for the first time, she felt a pang of fear. What if they were too different? What if the pressure of their lives as a couple, mixed with the demands of their careers, would drive them apart? It was an unspoken fear that had been brewing inside her for a while, and now it was impossible to ignore. Lucas caught her gaze and smiled softly. "Julia," he began, his voice quieter than usual, "I know this has been a lot. I know things are changing, and we've both been under a lot of pressure. But I want you to know something." He paused, his fingers tapping lightly on the desk. "I don't want to lose you. Not because of work, not because of anything. I'm in this for the long haul, and I believe in what we have. I know it hasn't been easy, but we can make this work." Julia's heart skipped a beat as she listened to his words. She knew that Lucas was sincere. She could see the emotion in his eyes, but there was still that nagging doubt inside her. "Lucas," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "I want to believe that too, but I'm scared. Scared that we're pushing too hard, that we're losing ourselves in this. I don't want to wake up one day and realize that I've given up everything for something that wasn't meant to be." She looked away, unable to meet his gaze, her hands clenched tightly in her lap. Lucas stood up from his chair and moved around the desk, his presence calm and reassuring. He reached out, gently lifting her chin so that their eyes met once more. "Julia," he said softly, "you haven't lost anything, and neither have I. What we're building together isn't about giving up anything. It's about building something new, together. And I know that we can do it. I'm not asking you to change who you are, and I'm not asking you to lose yourself in this. I'm just asking you to trust me. Trust us." Julia felt a wave of emotion wash over her. The doubt that had been gnawing at her for so long began to fade, replaced by something stronger: hope. She realized that she wasn't alone in this. Lucas wasn't just her boss anymore. He wasn't just the CEO of the company she worked for. He was someone who truly cared about her, who wanted to build a future with her. And for the first time, Julia believed that it was possible. "I trust you," she whispered, her voice filled with conviction. "I'm just afraid of losing myself in the process. But I can't let that fear stop me from taking this chance with you." Lucas smiled, his hand resting gently on hers. "You won't lose yourself, Julia. I promise you that. We're in this together, every step of the way." And with those words, Julia felt the last of her doubts dissolve. She realized that the fear she had been carrying was no longer necessary. She didn't have to choose between her career and her relationship with Lucas. She could have both. And together, they could build something that was stronger than either of them could have imagined. As the days turned into weeks, Julia and Lucas continued to face the challenges of their careers and their personal lives, but now they did it as a team. The tension that had once existed between them faded, replaced by a deeper connection, one rooted in trust, respect, and love. They knew there would still be obstacles to overcome, but they were no longer afraid. With each passing day, they grew stronger, not just as individuals, but as partners. And for the first time, Julia felt certain that the future was bright because whatever came their way, they would face it together. As time passed, Julia and Lucas continued to grow closer, their bond becoming something that neither of them could ignore. They had settled into a rhythm, balancing their demanding careers with their personal lives, and for the first time, Julia felt like she was truly living in the moment. She had spent so long keeping her emotions in check, keeping her life controlled and predictable, but now, with Lucas by her side, everything felt different. It wasn't just about the thrill of a new relationship or the excitement of what could be. It was about the foundation they were building together, one based on trust, respect, and love. They both knew that challenges would come their way, that life had a way of testing even the strongest relationships, but they also knew that they were stronger together. It wasn't about avoiding the struggles. It was about facing them head-on, hand in hand. One evening, after a particularly busy week, Lucas suggested they take a trip to the coast for the weekend, just the two of them. Julia agreed without hesitation. She knew that time away from the pressures of work would be good for both of them. They arrived at a small beach town, where the pace of life was slower, and the only sounds were the waves crashing against the shore and the calls of seagulls in the distance. It was the perfect escape. As they walked along the beach, the sun setting in the distance, Lucas turned to Julia, his hand gently brushing against hers. "I've been thinking," he began, his voice thoughtful, "about how far we've come in such a short time, about how much we've built, not just in terms of our work, but in terms of us, our relationship." Julia looked up at him, her heart swelling with emotion. She had never imagined that she would find someone who made her feel the way Lucas did, someone who made her believe in the possibility of a future filled with love and partnership. "I know what you mean," she said softly, her voice full of conviction. "It's crazy to think about how much has changed, but I wouldn't change a thing. Being with you has made me realize that there's so much more to life than just work, just achieving things. There's love, there's connection, there's us." Lucas smiled, his eyes softening. He reached out, gently cupping her face in his hands. "Julia, I've never been more sure of anything in my life. I want to spend the rest of my life with you, not just because of what we've built, but because of who you are. You've changed my life in ways I can't even describe. You've made me realize that it's not about just building a career or achieving success. It's about finding someone to share that success with. It's about building a life together. Julia's breath caught in her throat, and for a moment, everything else seemed to fade away. She had always known that Lucas was someone special, but now, standing on that beach, hearing him speak those words, she realized just how much he meant to her. "Lucas," she whispered, her voice filled with emotion, "I love you. I love you in a way I never thought was possible. I never imagined that I could feel this way, that I could trust someone so completely. But you've shown me that it's okay to let go, to be vulnerable. You've shown me that love is worth the risk." Lucas's eyes shone with unshed tears as he leaned in, pressing his forehead to hers. "I love you too, Julia, and I'll never take that for granted. We've built something incredible together, but this is just the beginning. There's so much more waiting for us, and I'm ready for it all, as long as it's with you." With those words, Julia knew that she had found something she had never dared to dream of. She had found someone who loved her, who saw her, not just as a colleague or an assistant, but as an equal, as a partner in every sense of the word. The uncertainty that had once plagued her heart was gone, replaced by a deep sense of peace. She wasn't alone anymore, and she didn't have to face the future on her own. She had Lucas, and together they could face anything that came their way. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the sky painted in shades of pink and orange, Julia and Lucas stood together, the waves crashing at their feet, and for the first time, Julia felt truly free. She was no longer afraid of what the future might hold. With Lucas by her side, she knew that whatever came next, they would face it together, and that was all that mattered. Months went by, and Julia and Lucas continued to build the life they had always dreamed of together. The challenges they had faced, the fears they had overcome, and the trust they had built formed a foundation stronger than either of them could have imagined. They navigated the complexities of their careers, but now they did it as partners, sharing the load and supporting each other through the highs and lows. Their relationship wasn't just about love, it was about mutual respect, understanding, and a shared vision of the future. There were still tough days, moments when the demands of work threatened to pull them apart, but they learned how to face those obstacles together, always finding a way back to each other. One evening, as they sat in their favorite restaurant, the soft hum of conversation around them, Lucas reached across the table, taking Julia's hand in his. "I know we've been through a lot," he began, his voice steady but full of emotion. "But I want you to know that I'm so proud of everything we've built. Not just in our careers, but in our lives together. You've made me a better person, Julia." Julia squeezed his hand, her heart swelling with gratitude. She had never imagined this kind of love, this kind of partnership, and she was grateful every day for it. "I feel the same way," she said softly. "You've shown me that love isn't just about the good moments. It's about sticking together through the tough times. You've been my rock." Lucas smiled, his eyes reflecting the warmth she felt in her heart. "And I'll always be here, Julia, no matter what. We're in this together, for the long haul." The words felt like a promise, one that neither of them would break. In the months that followed, they continued to grow, both as individuals and as a couple. Their connection deepened in ways they had never thought possible, and they found themselves more in love than ever. Julia's fear of losing herself had faded away completely. She had found balance, and with Lucas by her side, she had become the person she always wanted to be. Together they celebrated their victories and faced their challenges, always united, always moving forward. One day, as they stood on the balcony of their apartment, looking out over the city they had both worked so hard to conquer, Lucas turned to Julia, his voice full of emotion. "I know we've come so far, and there's still so much more to do, but I don't want to wait any longer," he said, his eyes never leaving hers. Julia's heart skipped a beat as she realized what was happening. This was it. She had known it was coming, but now that it was here, the moment felt surreal. Lucas dropped to one knee, pulling out a small velvet box. "Julia, will you marry me? Will you spend the rest of your life with me, building something even greater than what we have now?" Julia's eyes filled with tears as she looked at the man she loved, the man who had been her partner, her best friend, and now, The person she would spend the rest of her life with. Yes, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Yes, 1,000 times yes. As Lucas slipped the ring onto her finger, they shared a kiss that felt like the culmination of everything they had been through. It wasn't just the beginning of a new chapter, it was the beginning of a lifetime together. As they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, the city lights twinkling in the distance, Julia knew that no matter what the future held, they would face it together. And that, in itself, was enough to make her believe in the power of love, in the strength of partnership, and in the beauty of a shared journey. If this story touched you even just a little, hit like so the algorithm knows we still believe in kindness. Tap subscribe and the notification bell so you won't miss the next journey. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What moment of giving once changed you? Share it in the comments below. Your story might become the inspiration for the next video. And if you think someone needs to hear this story, please share it with them. Thank you for spending your time here. See you again in the next story.